Welcome back to Thriving with Richard Bass. If you're new here, my channel is dedicated to helping parents navigate the ups and downs of raising kids with compassion and confidence. Whether you're parenting a child with oppositional defiant disorder, ADHD, autism, or even if you're just working to build healthy discipline habits with a neurotypical child, today's topic is for you. Let's dive into something every parent struggles with at one point or another: following through with consequences. Why is this so important? Think about it. Kids thrive on structure and consistency. When they know that a boundary is firm, they feel safe and secure within it. This isn't just true for children with behavioral challenges like ODD or ADHD. It's true for every child. But here's the tricky part. Following through isn't always easy, especially when you're exhausted, feeling guilty, or second-guessing the consequence you set. So, let's break it down. Today, we'll explore 1. Why following through is critical for a child's development. 2. How to handle situations where you regret the consequence you've set. 3. Real-life examples of effective consequences that you can adapt to your parenting style. Let's start with the why. Imagine this: your child refuses to clean up their toys after being asked several times. You tell them, if you don't clean up, you won't get screen time tomorrow. But when tomorrow comes, you let it slide because you're feeling bad about taking away something they enjoy. While it might seem like a small thing in the moment, what message does this send to your child? It tells them that your words aren't final and boundaries are flexible. Over time, this can lead to bigger challenges like defiance, lack of respect for rules, and even anxiety because the child doesn't know what to expect. This is especially crucial for kids with ADHD, autism, or ODD. These kids often struggle with impulse control and emotional regulation, which means they need clear, consistent boundaries to help them navigate the world. But neurotypical kids benefit just as much. Following through with consequences teaches responsibility, accountability, and self-discipline, skills that are essential for success in life. Now let's address the elephant in the room. What do you do when you regret the consequence you've set? Maybe you acted in the heat of the moment and realized later that the consequence was too harsh or isn't practical. First of all, it's okay to feel this way. Parenting is hard and we all make mistakes. The important thing is how you handle it. Here's what you don't do. Don't completely backtrack or cancel the consequence. This undermines your authority and sends mixed signals to your child. Instead, adjust the consequence in a way that still reinforces the boundary, but feels fair and manageable. For example, let's say your child throws a tantrum at the grocery store, and in frustration you say, "That's it, no TV for a week." Later, you realize that a whole week is excessive and likely unsustainable. Instead of canceling the consequence, you could say, "After thinking about it, I realize a week is too long, so we're going to stick with no TV for the rest of today and tomorrow." This is still a consequence for your behavior, but it's more reasonable. This approach does two things. 1, it shows your child that you're fair and reflective, not reactionary. 2, it reinforces the idea that there are still consequences for their actions. Another example: suppose you take away a planned family outing because your child didn't follow instructions. After cooling off, you feel guilty because the punishment affects the whole family. Instead of canceling the outing, you can modify the consequence by saying, "We're still going to the park, but because of your behavior, you won't be allowed to use your scooter or bike while we're there." This way, the child still feels the consequence without punishing everyone. Another critical reason to follow through with consequences is that it teaches your child about trust and reliability. When you consistently enforce boundaries, you're showing your child that they can depend on your word. This reliability builds a foundation of trust that extends beyond discipline. It teaches them that they can count on you in all aspects of life. On the other hand, when consequences are inconsistent, it can create confusion and undermine their sense of security, which can lead to behavior that tests boundaries even further. Let's move on to practical examples of consequences that are effective, fair, and easy to follow through with. The key here is to make the consequence related to the behavior whenever possible. 1. For younger kids. If your child refuses to clean up their toys, the consequence might be that the toys they didn't clean up are put away for the rest of the day. If they hit a sibling, the consequence could be sitting out of playtime for 5 minutes to calm down and reflect. 2. For kids with ADHD. If they forget to complete a chore because they were distracted, the consequence could be pausing their favorite activity until the chore is done. If they interrupt repeatedly during a conversation, the consequence could be practicing active listening for 5 minutes as a redo. 3. For kids with ODD. If they outright refuse to do homework, the consequence might be losing free time after school the next day to complete the work they missed. If they yell or use disrespectful language, the consequence could be writing an apology or spending time in a quiet space to reset. 4. For kids on the autism spectrum. If they struggle with transitioning from one activity to another and have a meltdown, the consequence might be a visual schedule that shows them what they missed out on due to their behavior. If they throw a toy, the consequence could be losing access to that toy until the next day. 5. For neurotypical kids. If they don't follow the rule of turning off screens by bedtime, the consequence could be starting screen time later the next day. If they argue about doing chores, the consequence could be adding an extra chore to their list. Remember, the goal of a consequence isn't to punish, it's to teach. Every time you follow through, you're reinforcing the idea that actions have outcomes. This helps your child learn to think before they act, regulate their emotions, and take responsibility for their choices. And here's one final tip. After the consequence is over, move on. Don't hold a grudge or keep bringing it up. This shows your child that consequences are a learning opportunity, not a personal attack. Parenting isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. The more you practice following through with consequences, the more your child will learn to respect your boundaries and trust your guidance. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'd love to hear from you. What's one consequence that's worked well for your family? Share your experience in the comments below, and let's keep the conversation going. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with other parents who might benefit from these strategies. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.